Hi, I'm John Fulton with the Ohio State University, and we're going to talk about data fundamentals. Growers with an understanding of farm data fundamentals can potentially improve efficiencies on the farm, enhance input allocation and use of those inputs, improve practices that are implemented, and ultimately they're able to inform decisions and bring new insights. Why is data important? Creates information to support these decisions. You can generate maps and conduct field or subfield level analyses. You can also pull data today for comparative learning. We call this benchmarking, where you compare yourself with others and see how you're doing, whether you're above average, below average, or such, but just new learning where you can go out and compare to others. But also today, with the internet connectivity and cloud technologies being offered, provides access to these digital tools and new analytical pieces that the ag industry is starting to offer growers. Just to start, data fundamentals. The process here is we want to collect using the technologies that have been adopted. We want to store. Ultimately, we want to analyze that data to create information, solutions, and recommendations, ultimately to provide decisions to the grower. One thing we highly recommend is to understand how you're going to store data, whether that's going to be on-farm, off-farm, or a combination. But we also encourage growers to be able to back up data on an annual basis. Secondly, we recommend that growers organize that data. Until it's organized, it's very hard to utilize it, especially if we're going to access that down the road. When we think about data types, there's a variety of data that's generated on the farm. In this case, we're thinking kind of field level type data. But here's an example of how we organize some different data that's being generated today. That's agronomic data, machine data, prescriptions, remote sense data, and ultimately production data, all being important data streams that could bring information back to the grower. The important thing that we want to recommend here is identify what data is being generated on the farm, but we should be also thinking about what technologies are creating that data today. We continue to have some hurdles in the industry, compatibility being one of the primary hurdles, interoperability and portability being two of those. Interoperability very basically is thinking about trying to connect brand A tractor to brand B planter, but ultimately portability is the utilization of data. How can I move, copy, or transfer that data very easily between environments or platforms without affecting the usability of it? One thing to do understand at the base fundamentals is formats of data. There's a wide range of formats being used today in the ag industry. These formats can be both open in nature, but also proprietary. Okay, and on the right side here, just some list of common formats being utilized. The top three being open examples, with the bottom data formats being examples very proprietary that are generated by a company. In that case, I'm going to need a software package in order to upload that data and ultimately view or utilize it in some fashion. An example of this would be just here's an as-applied map in the center. Very common today to be collected on machinery. This one's for fertilizer, but we think about that being collected on the left side by the in-cab display. I have to download and ultimately upload that into a farm management software to generate the information in the map that you see in the middle. At the core of that data is this data was generated by a Raven Viper 2. The file format, when we pulled that data off of that Viper, was a .rbin. That's a proprietary one that, again, ultimately needed to be uploaded into the farm management software package to be viewed and used. Please do understand there's a lot of file formats. So if we zoom in, you see a zoom in there. We see a lot of data that's geo-referenced and that it represents how much was applied where. But inside that file are elements, date, locations, applied rate, elevation, ground speed, and much more information could be. So just please understand that there's a lot of file formats within these proprietary files or even open files. So the key takeaways today is data can be used to make informed decisions. One of the first steps that we suggest taking is identify those technologies being used, and the data being generated by those technologies. We encourage growers to develop some kind of procedure to download that data and ultimately archive it. There's a variety, I understand there's a variety of formats that you're going to have to manage. There are still hurdles in the industry, and the primary one being compatibility. But ultimately, in order to take full advantage of data today, we need to be able to store it. It should be organized, and that helps with both the utilization but also sharing. And for those that are going to be sharing data, which we see that growing in the future, you got to determine a strategy. How am I going to share these data files with others in order to capture new insights and learnings? So with that, we wanted to ask you, the audience, a question today. And the question is do you actively collect data on your farm? Yes or no?